Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome back if you were in the previous session, and welcome to any new arrivals. This session today is about actors at the heart of the creative economy. We are very happy to welcome aspiring and successful actress Lauren Scott Berry, who already has her fingers in lots of interesting creative endeavors, which I'm sure she'll be telling you more about, including this podcast, which is on the screen at the moment. Hopefully that will keep scrolling. We're not trying to force the podcast down your throat necessarily. We'll see see how that goes with the slides. Um, okay, so my name's James Cateridge. I am a network lead for the Creative Industries Research and Innovation Network here at Oxford Brookes. And all week this week we have our Creative Industries Festival 2026 happening. One of my colleagues will put a link in the chat to the Eventbrite page, which has all the events which are running this week. So please, if you enjoy the event now, then do go ahead and sign up to some more events. We're online today and tomorrow, so everything is online and free to attend. And then from Wednesday onwards, we are in person on campus. So come along to all the events you want to come to, and we hope to meet some of you in person later in the week, and get to have a proper chat as we run the events. Okay, so I will get started. Myself and Lauren have decided we're going to run this session as a kind of relaxed conversation. I think that's the best way to put it. Wouldn't you agree, Lauren?
I would, yes.
It's a relaxed conversation. We've got some things we want to talk about, but obviously, if you have any questions for Lauren about anything that we're talking about, then please do feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll try to get around to them at the end of the session. We're going to go till about 10 to 1 today because we do have another meeting starting at 2 o'clock, so we need to finish before that. Okay, that's all the business done. I didn't tell everyone where the toilets were. There's no need for that because we're online. Welcome, Lauren. Thanks so much for coming along. It's lovely to
So
have you.
it's a real pleasure.
And I know that you were on holiday last week, so I appreciate you being with us today on kind of short notice away from your break.
No, it's lovely. Really honoured to be asked to be a part of it. So thrilled to
Right,
be
thank you. So my first question is I suppose, very obvious one. It's just about inspiration. So growing up, what inspired you to take on this career, this wonderful and challenging and inspirational career?
Well, I always enjoyed like performance. So I was in a dance school when I was little. It was quite a casual one. There was nothing particularly like serious about it. I went in my shorts and t-shirt to do ballet. Um, but we did an annual Christmas show, and I always loved that part of the year. Um, I don't really know why I wanted to be an actor because I went to schools that didn't do school plays. We didn't do like a drama class. I didn't actually do any real acting until my GCSEs when I took drama as GCSE. Um, and when it came to applying for UCAS after doing my A levels, I was always creative. So I did art, drama, and music as my choices. I was way more interested in the creative industries than any other aspect of school and education. But I really decided I wanted to be an actor when I suggested to my school that I wanted to apply for drama school. And they said that that wasn't really a viable option. And I was like, oh, we'll see. We'll see about that. So I kind of pursued acting out of spite. um,
As you
no, not
should.
just out of spite. I obviously really enjoyed it, and there was just nothing else that piqued my interest like the creative industries did. But then being told no was a real driving force for me.
That's very admirable. I think we've all had that experience of school teachers who are kind of less encouraging than they might be, and I think go full steam ahead and let it fire your flames is very admirable.
Well,
Um, so let's start with the kind of highlights of your career, I suppose. What would you say was your proudest achievement as an actor to date?
I'm actually super proud of everything that I've done. I think one of my greatest achievements was actually just getting into drama school because that is a really tough process. And like the first year I applied, I don't even think I got any callbacks because it's quite a vigorous process. You have to do a number of callback auditions. The second year I auditioned, when I knew a bit more about what I was getting into, I think it was probably the first time I'd ever even been to London, was in my first year auditioning. So it's like huge changes with going to a big city where I'm from a little coastal village. Obviously I hadn't had much acting experience. Like I've just said, I hadn't done many plays or anything through my childhood. In my second year of auditioning, I did actually get quite a few recalls, but I ended up getting offered courses that weren't the course that I applied to. So I was offered like community theatre or I can't remember what they all were. It was such a long time ago, but I think I was offered two different courses and I turned them down because I just felt like that wasn't what I actually really wanted to do. And then it was another 2 years before, I think it was in my third or fourth year, I got accepted onto a foundation course, two different foundation courses at two different drama schools. I went to East 15 because you could get student finance for that course, but I was also offered one at Central School of Speech and Drama, which I think is slightly more prestigious, but didn't offer student finance. And then, sorry, it was my third year. After that, I didn't get into any 3-year courses. So it took me another year until I was finally offered a course that I really wanted to do. And I think it really set me up for the industry because that is what it's like. You really need to be persistent and you really need to be focused on what you actually want, because things will come at you that are similar or maybe like might be something to do with what you want to do, but it will take you out of where you're heading, and you need to think, is that what I want, or am I gonna stay on this straight line of what I actually really know that I want? And I think just finally getting the training that I know that I needed is probably what I'm most proud of.
Yeah,
And
I
then
think you should be. And I think what you're saying there is already really interesting to me. Also coming from, the north of England, away from London, and having that experience of not feeling connected to, a lot of creative enterprise that happens down there. And
yeah,
how do you get past that first barrier of people saying, no, you can't have student finance, or you don't quite fit in because you're not from a kind of London elite.
yeah, and almost everyone that I was on my foundation course with were all talking about National Youth Theatre, and I'd never even heard of National Youth Theatre at that point. Like I just was in from somewhere so rural that these opportunities, I didn't even know that they existed. Um, so yeah, I think just not one particular project or film or piece of theatre that I've been a part of, but just my journey of still being an actor.
Yeah, sticking
Yeah,
out and not
yeah,
taking no for an answer, definitely.
yeah.
Okay, so the realities of your career, how do you have an agent, right? So you have a person who helps you to find roles. How does that work? Does all the work come through the agent first, or does it sometimes happen in different ways?
I've actually got almost none of my work is from my agent. Um, so I do have an agent, and they do send me auditions, and they're almost always for things that I wouldn't be able to access without them. But almost all the roles that I have taken are roles that I've applied for or had some connection to or pushed for myself. Um, so I don't think that I would necessarily ever be able to put myself up for something in the West End or a really high paying commercial, um, or a soap opera. They're the sort of things that I do get through my agent. But all the sort of work that I have had um, has not come through my agent. They do the dealings with it when I get my contract and when I get the roles. They take all that stress and admin away from me, which is great. But yeah, mostly you still have to be very proactive, and that's with any level of agent as well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, and you mentioned auditions. I guess auditions are a vital part of what everyone imagines an actor's life to be like. We think about films like La La Land, Emma Stone going up for audition after audition and being kind of patronized and talked down to, and and eventually becoming a big breakout star. So that is obviously part of the mythology of being an actor. So, how was your experience of auditions? Have you ever had anything brilliant happen or anything less brilliant?
Um, I think auditions for me never get any easier. And over recent years since COVID, the process had changed quite a lot. So we now do lots more self tapes, which takes away an element of nerves because you're not in a room with four people just sat behind a table looking at you. And you're not sat sweating in a waiting room beforehand. You've not trekked across London or whatever. So that's nice that sometimes that's quite nice that you don't have that, but it does mean when those auditions come back around in person in the room, I find now that I get way more nervous because I do them far more infrequently.
Hmm.
And with a self tape, you have much more autonomy over it because you can do it 1,000 times. But the downside is you can do it 1,000 times and you get this like element of perfectionism that you just want it the right take, or maybe you messed up a word, which in the room wouldn't matter because it's not a memory test, and you just keep going. But when you've got it on tape in front of you, you're like, I'll just do it again because I think I can get that word right. But then you might get something else wrong or do something that you liked less, and it becomes this like, for me anyway, it becomes this very long-winded process that can take up at least half a day.
Yeah,
And then there's lots of file conversion stuff that you often have to do as well, which is not really my forte. Um, so there's pros and cons, but on the whole, I think auditioning, there is fun in it, especially when it's a group audition and you're doing like a workshop audition. They're the best kinds of auditions because it's a bit like being in the rehearsal room, which is my absolute favorite part of being an actor, where you're getting to explore and have fun and make choices and be bold. Um, but yeah, it just depends on what it is that you're auditioning for and who it's for and who it's with, really.
yeah. No, I understand that perfectionism thing with the tape recorded. I think everyone would do the same. And I know we work with students on whether they should do presentations or whether they should do recorded presentations. And on the one hand, recording sounds great, but then it takes up so much time because you're
Mhm.
not going to be happy until it's perfect, are you? You've got to keep doing it again and again. So what about your kind of typical working pattern? How do you work sort of consistently throughout the year? Is it very kind of stop start? And when you're working, what are the hours like, basically?
Um, so I think I used to work a lot more frequently as an actor pre-COVID. The industry took a big hit during obviously lockdown, and I just feel like it's not been as easy to get a foot back in the door since. But I also think that I'm in my mid 30s now and I have a house. Well, I have a flat, I have another job. Like my life has become a bit more structured. And so maybe part of this is that I don't put myself out as much as I used to. When I used to work in hospitality, I could take shifts whenever I wanted them, I could turn them down without it really affecting anyone. Um, Whereas now I work for quite a small company. I work 3 days a week for a dance company that specializes in dance for neurology, and I go and facilitate adults with brain injuries to do dance and movement. And I would be letting people down if I didn't go to work for that. So it would have to be structured. It wouldn't just be like, I'm not going to that event to serve champagne. Like I feel more like I have more responsibility now and I'm not renting now. I have a flat. So um, my life structure has changed slightly. Um, So I work more infrequently, and I think that's just a combination of COVID and my lifestyle. But I am filming a film. I'm filming a feature film at the moment, which is great and very, very exciting. And it's through some people that I've worked with before, and my dates are all scheduled around my work schedule. So that's great. So I'm very fortunate in that, yeah, some of the work that I do get is they're being quite considerate about, yeah, what I'm able to do. And then if I did have anything longer term, I would be able to figure it out. If I had the time, I would be able to figure it out with the dance company that I work for. But yeah, I just can't be quite as frivolous as I used to be in my 20s.
No, and yeah, obviously that's a very common experience of creative professionals having sort of portfolio careers and different jobs and having to balance, even though it sounds like you've got something very, very rewarding, something that you really love doing on as well as acting, that comes with responsibilities, and it means you can't necessarily be the person going out every night chatting to people and networking basically and getting roles that way, can you? So yeah, it's must be a difficult balance.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But it's fun. And like you just figure out a new route and a new way and a new rhythm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
both brilliant fun jobs to have, I'm sure. Um, so let's move on then. So one question I was going to ask was about your status as a female actor, I guess, as a woman in the industry, and
Mhm.
whether you've ever felt that as if you've been treated differently being a female actor compared to your male peers and colleagues.
I actually don't think I've experienced any in any of the projects that I've worked on. They've all been super friendly, inclusive companies. Um, I'm sure when I was younger, there will be. I've thought long about this question, and the thing is, for someone who has to remember words for a living, I do have a terrible memory. Um, and I often won't remember something until someone else brings it up. But what I can think of very recently that happened is a male industry professional that I really respected, was very complimentary to me about my craft. And I was so flattered. I was really, really flattered about it. And they sent me a message later on and just backed up what they'd said to me in person, and said that they'd love if I had any notes for them on anything that they were doing, because they really respect how I work, and that they thought it could help them. And I was like, wow, this is so wonderful. I feel so flattered that this person that's a bit older than me, who works more frequently than me, who's got a lot of fingers in different pies, I just thought that's really such a compliment. But then they sent me a follow-up message, um, which was overly complimentary of my appearance, which for me undermined everything that they'd just said. Um, and I found that really difficult actually, because I'd felt so elevated by what they'd said, and then I suddenly felt very devalued, um, which doesn't necessarily like affect my work, because that's for me to process and work on. But it's just a very recent event that's just happened. So that's like the only thing that really comes to mind for this question. Um, and it's just another one of those things that you just have to think, put it, put it away, and don't let it affect you how you're moving on. And those other things that he'd said previously still could be true. Um,
Yeah,
but
but
yeah,
still,
it's hard.
you don't want to be made to feel that way, though, do you? You
You
should have
don't know.
been
And
aware.
the other things that you have to think about is, if you call that out, then is that going to, I'm working with this person currently, I've worked with them previously, and they're in this sort of circle that I've managed to get myself into, that I get um kind of ongoing work from. is it going to affect that? Like it just feels really unfair for someone to just push a comment that is inappropriate, and you know that they're just saying it just to see what the chances are, and it's
Mm.
unfair that there, let me just see how far I can push this, is actually a really big deal with potential knock-on consequences for me.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I've heard similar things from female friends in all walks of life, and yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. Hopefully, you can navigate it.
Yeah, I just said we could keep feedback professional.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably just keep going down the professional route and playing that card.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so I guess it's sort of similar question. We already raised this slightly at the beginning of the talk about um, the sort of huge regional disparities and the problem of the London centricness of your career. Um, how has that impacted on your choices? Do you live in London now? Do you still live up north?
Yeah, so I moved to London in 2009 to go to East 15, and I've been there ever since. Well, with a brief break during lockdown, I went back to my village, thinking it would be just a couple of weeks, and was actually over a year I was back there. But yeah, I'm quite firmly rooted in London. That's where my life feels like it is. But it has been, it's a big city. It's busy, big, busy, can be very lonely. But there is always something going on. But I don't think you have to be there to be an actor. I think there's a lot of northern cities where there's just as much going on. I think you can be successful from anywhere really in the country, because travel is so easy in this country. Um, I know that there's like a big buzz in Leeds. I'm playing at Leeds Playhouse. I mean, I was probably more excited to be there than in some London venues. Um, I know like Manchester's got a lot going on. And yeah, if you drive or if you are comfortable with trains, you can work from anywhere. We're so well connected, and nowhere's too far in this country to get to an audition or to go and stay for a weekend and do a small job.
Mhm.
Um, and most jobs are quite short, and if they're really long, you're probably traveling as part of the job. So it wouldn't really matter where you were based.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm from Sheffield, and I always find I actually much prefer going to see shows in Sheffield. If I know they're going to tour,
Mhm.
I would actually choose to wait and go and see them in Sheffield because I just found the audiences are much warmer. I think up north, and it's a cliche, but it's genuinely true that the audiences are nicer and
It certainly
warmer.
is. People are certainly warmer, I think, up north. And I feel it in myself. I get back to London and I'm like, no one look at me. I'm going on the tube. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. You just very quickly mold into that eyes down. I'm on my own. Um, I don't know what it is, but yeah, I think it is nice doing things up north and cheaper.
Yes, much cheaper. Yeah,
Yeah.
much more reasonable. Um, are you part of an actors union? I guess
Mhm.
you have to be, don't you, to get roles. So, do you find the unionization is helpful? Do they give you useful advice?
I've actually never used the union. So I'm part of Equity, which I've always been a part of, but I've never used them. But it's just a comfort to know that they're there. And if there was a job that, um, if it was like a big job, but they didn't promote unionization, I would wonder why. And I would
Hmm.
probably think, I wonder why. What is it that they're not doing why they don't want to yeah, be part of a union. I had a drama teacher once who said he took a job once that was part of a car commercial that was filmed in a desert somewhere. I can't remember what country it was in. Um, and he really toyed with whether he should do it or not, because they weren't part of any union, and he was a bit worried about health and safety. But he decided to do it anyway. He was quite young at the time, and it was fine. But it's always going to be a slight gamble, especially yeah, if you're going to another country and you just never know. I just feel protected. If I need it, it's there. It's just an insurance what word am I trying to say there? Policy.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and obviously I know you kind of need equity to get roles, but obviously they push for workers' rights and they make sure that people are treated well in their jobs. And yeah, I think if there wasn't unionization attached to a role, then it is a bit of a red flag, isn't it? 'Cause you never know what you're going to be asked to do.
Yeah.
Um, I suppose one of the other big issues that people are talking about a lot at the moment is the rise of AI and the way that AI is impacting like, all of the creative industries, but certainly has a kind of, I guess, an immediate threat in relation to acting roles, particularly voice acting roles. We had a presentation in the last Creative Industries Festival that was talking about voice actors and how a lot of their work has just kind of disappeared overnight um, because of AI and the fact that voices are a lot easier to replicate and to reproduce. So, have you had any run-ins with AI? Do you think you've ever lost any work because of it? Or
Um, like currently, no, but it is something that I do worry about, definitely. And I recently got a job voicing an animation character, and I had to ask for my contract to be altered to make sure that I would always own all aspects of my voice because there was nothing in there. And that is definitely something that we really have to think about now because yeah, it, you're just going to lose the rights to yourself otherwise. If you don't have it in writing that that can't happen, then it absolutely can happen. And it is, yeah, it's definitely a worry, and it's something that we'll have to think about and consider with every role, every role that we do now. Anything on film, yeah, anything with any element of recording,
yeah,
that is
no,
going to be
I've heard that story also from other actors about a certain big streaming platform that I won't name, but I know that the biggest streaming platform that we all know did have clauses in their contract until fairly recently that if you did voice work for them, that they were then allowed to kind of that they basically owned the reproduction of your voice in perpetuity. And a few people had tried to fight back against that, but obviously them being as powerful as they are, we're finding it tricky. So yeah,
yeah.
it's
And I just
difficult.
don't know what you cannot yeah, it's an unfair position to be in because you either lose that work, which you're obviously going to be super excited to have, especially for one of these the biggest platforms that we have, but that means you might never work again because then they own your face or your voice, and I'm sure you probably would work again, but they can do whatever they want with it. um yeah, or don't take it and lose that opportunity which you've been striving for your whole career. It's like it's a really unfair position to be in, and I do think that there needs to be an introduction of some sort of law, yeah, to I don't know, to help protect us.
Yeah, I think there's definitely is discussions going on at policy levels about making sure that actors are protected, and but it doesn't help when AI launches publicity stunts like that completely digital actress that was announced
Yeah,
last year, Tilly, which is still very sort of creepy and uncanny and not quite there yet. But you have to say, in a few years' time, it will be there, and then we're fully in kind of Black Mirror territory where people's images can be just used and
yeah, and there's so many other branches of what's wrong with that. um I mean, I could talk about it for a long time. I think
yeah,
particularly as a woman, that's a very scary thing to see what can be made to be produced.
absolutely. Um, okay, I've nearly run out of questions. So if anyone who's in the audience does have any questions for Lauren or anything you'd like us to talk about, then please do chip into the chat, or you can always unmute yourself and say hello. Um, just whilst people are thinking about that, as a sort of summing up, what advice, if you meet young people who are thinking about going into the industry, what advice do you tend to give them, or have you ever given advice to aspiring young actors?
I think I'd say, like, is it the thing that you really, really are passionate about and that you really, really want to pursue? Because you will get told no a lot. You will, yeah, it will be a difficult journey. And even if you've got some contacts, I imagine it'll still be difficult. But if it is really something that you want, you just need to be tenacious. You need to be very forthcoming in your approach to it. You need to be active. Even if you get an agent, you have to be actively looking for work, actively networking, actively building relationships with people, and to not take it personally when you get no's. It's not personal. It's just you're not what they're looking for. I think of myself as a product. And if someone was shopping and they were looking for shampoo and I'm shampoo, they're not going to leave with a can of beans. So you just have to think it's not me or my ability. You're just not what they're looking for. And that's fine. That's absolutely okay, because someone else will be looking for you for a different role. And also find what else you can find joy in. So I've done a lot of different jobs whilst living in London, because it is really difficult to, if you want to be in London, which you don't have to be, it is really expensive. So I've done loads of different jobs. I've done like TAing, working with SEN children, working for hospitality companies. I now work for this dance company. I've worked for events companies as a chef. And then I always am setting something up for myself. So on these slides, you can see Nourish and Yolk. That's my catering company that I've set up. I've recently started TikTok. And if you want to make money from that, find your niche. I found my niche, which is wearing my wedding dress that I never got to wear. And I've just very recently started a podcast as well. So just always looking for other things that I can take pleasure in that might have that might bring an income. The more things you start, the more likely that income is the more likely it is to come in. I've also started a children's fitness channel on YouTube called Play Fit with Jessie. But these are all long games. They're all things that involve a lot of input to get any output. So if you're great at get rich quick schemes, good for you. Give me some tips.
Really, I think we could all do with a bit of that.
Yeah.
So socials always seems like a route, a shortcut to success and stardom, but it's such a massive amount of work, isn't it? People don't realize how much work you need to put into that stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and it requires being quite brave as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and real consistency over time.
Mhm.
Okay, we've got a few questions in the chat, so I'm going to run through those now. So Hannah has asked, what do you think are the biggest misconceptions you think people have about being an actor? So what do people expect your life is like when and it's not actually like that?
I think well, I'm not really sure what people expect my life to be like. I'm sure some people will expect it to be glamorous, and it's not. I find myself not really, I don't usually mention it as my job. Like if I meet someone new, it's usually the last thing that I mention as what I do, and that's after I've already decided that I feel comfortable talking to them about it, because you can guarantee if they don't know anything about the creative industries, their first thing will be like, oh, what have I seen you on? Or like, will I know anything you're in? And the chances are like, no, you probably won't. And then you've got to deal with like, with that, what's their reaction to that going to be then? I worked with a chef once who asked me the same thing, and I said no, and they said, oh, you're not very successful, are you? And I just thought, it depends what your idea of success is. I'm still working in the industry I chose many years after my training. I think that's successful. I still make money from that profession. I still am in circles that I want to be in, and I still get to do the thing that I love. So yeah, I think that I get to play for my work, and I think that that's, yeah, it makes me happy. So I class that as success. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, it depends who you're talking to as to what their expectation is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've got a message from your good friend Danielle, who's volunteering to be your memory, as, as yours doesn't work as well. She says, Lauren says, no, I'm volunteering to be Lauren's memory. You can ask about the different strings to a bow. So TikTok, you've already mentioned, the catering company. You're in the process of writing a one-woman play.
Oh yeah, I am. Yeah. Um, yeah, I yes, I am. I'm hoping to do a bit of a scratch for that in July. But that's, yeah, based on my personal experiences with love, and it's called Everything That Led Me Here. Um, and yeah, so I'm hoping, yeah, to have a first showing of that in July. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It's going to be hopefully quite funny, very resonant and honest. I'm hoping people will be able to connect to it.
And have you got a venue lined up already for that?
No, not yet.
So in looking out for a venue, if anyone knows anywhere, then please get in touch. Um, I've got a question from Maria, who's one of our careers advisors here at Brookes. And so, Maria says, how do you manage your own well-being, especially when you have to keep a positive outlook whilst being consistently turned down for
Yeah.
offers?
I do think you do need quite a tough skin, which I am from quite a working class background, so I think I've just had one anyway. I've had a job since I was 12, so I've got like, my mum was always like, yeah, well, it gave you a backbone. Um, so I do think maybe my upbringing has helped with that. Um, I don't think things have particularly come that easily. I've always had to work for things, so that's has been a good lesson instilled into me. But then for my own personal well-being, I'm quite active. I think it for me, exercise is really important. Eating well is really important. I just really notice when I don't eat well, I don't feel good. I have a really, really wonderful group of friends. Um, and I think that's really important. Like, I feel really, really blessed with the circle of friends that I have around me. They're so supportive. Um, and my family is supportive as well. There are things that not everyone can control. But the things that I can control, I go to therapy, I eat well, I exercise well, I keep the space around me clear, because that helps me have a clearer head. When things get messy around me, I get messy. So I just, yeah, I do the best that I can to keep my life, like my inner, my home calm, to help keep me calm. And then I actively invest in myself with things like therapy and going to like boxing classes. I really enjoy that. I find, yeah, just find the thing that makes you feel good and do it, and just be consistent, really do it.
Yeah, I agree. And I always imagine eating well must be really difficult when you're working, particularly if you're doing if you're on tour or if you're doing a two runs of a play every day. How do you fit in eating well? Because there's all those terrible like
It is.
takeout options, I'm sure.
I think I have a long-term health condition where I have to consider my food anyway. But I did tour America once, and I'm a vegetarian, and I do eat well, and I still ended up in hospital. It triggered my health condition. So it is tricky. I was eating a lot of Subway sandwiches, just salad sandwiches, but
Yeah,
just the ingredients are so different over there that put me in hospital.
toxic takeouts.
Yeah. Um,
A few more questions. Andrea's asked, do you have any views on Tilly Norwood, the AI actor? We've already mentioned her a couple of times. Um, do you have any other views on her? Does that really
I,
horrify you, that idea?
it does and it doesn't. In one way, I think it's amazing technology. I think like very impressive that this has been managed to be built. Um, but I don't think I agree with it as an actor. I think great use of technology to have it as a thing that can exist, but not to be taking the roles of a human. And I'm sure any industry would sort of think the same if it was a musician. Musicians would be like, it's pretty cool, but no, thank you. Keep it to your experiment. Um, I just don't think it will ever come across as truthfully as a human actor. And I
Mm.
think the sort of people that might want to watch it and maybe wanting to watch the things that I don't really want to be a part of. It's like when you read something written by AI, for me, it just doesn't land. I think maybe the first three sentences you can think, oh, this sounds good. And then you read a full paragraph or two paragraphs and it just doesn't land. It doesn't have heart. It follows this an inhuman pattern. And I just think it's really obvious. And I don't believe that it will ever get to a point where where I'm completely convinced that it is human. And I think that anyone that wants to watch something that's going to be that sort of surface level is probably a project I don't need to be a part of.
It's video games, isn't it? It's basically it's video games. It's fine, let
Yeah,
them use it for video games,
yeah,
and then that frees up proper actors to do kind of. I'm sure actors are very happy working in video games because it's work. But if you can have completely CGI characters, then that seems an obvious place for.
yeah.
Yeah. And also, there was some second part to that question, which I'm now lost. Tell us more about the podcast. What is your podcast?
So the podcast is called Apocalypse Pals. There's currently only one episode because we live in different countries, but we will be releasing a second episode relatively soon. And it's because me and my best friend, when we lived together in London for 5 years, and we were obsessed with zombie films and The Walking Dead. And we were convinced that we would be able to survive a zombie apocalypse, and started planning for it. And now, the plan for the podcast is that each episode will center around a different apocalyptic event, so a different end of world scenario, and we'll talk about how we will survive it.
That sounds like a great idea because that's
Yeah,
something I also think about a lot.
yeah.
More than is healthy, I think.
I think more and more people do now. So um, I actually think we'd not stand a chance in reality, but um, but it's nice to hear our delusions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
If you think you've got enough tinned food and water ready for the apocalypse, then you're probably wrong. But
yeah.
it's nice to play the game. Any more questions? So we've got a question from Keith. Welcome, Keith. Keith says, "What did you ever get any advice from a drama teacher or another actor that you really took to heart and that you've used in your career?"
Um, I think the thing that I've already mentioned about thinking yourself as a product, that probably came from a teacher. And I have to remind myself of that often. Um, this is where the memory fades. I'm sure I've been told so many inspirational things. I really, really will have been. And I've had really inspirational, motivational teachers. Um, but I don't know one thing that stands out that I've been told that I've really held on to.
The product thing's good. I think that's good advice. Just think about yourself as shampoo, and then it doesn't matter if they want baked beans, then
Yeah.
it's not gonna happen, is it?
No, it's not.
Does that answer your question, Keith? I can see you've hello. Good stuff.
It's going to be more shampoo from now on.
Um, Hannah says, a question from Hannah Yellen. Do you think traditional actors' training problems prepare actors adequately for economic realities within the industry?
Um, can you read it one more time?
Do you
Oh,
think training programs give you enough training in the economic, in like financial management, I guess, the economic side of your job?
um, I don't know. Not, no, no, I wouldn't say so. But I wonder if it's their place too. It's, I think that I was probably one of the poorest people in my year. Um, so I had to think about money a lot more, even throughout my training. I went to DSL Drama Studio London, which is you don't get any student finance for. So after I went to East 15, I then did a 2-year course at DSL. And I knew I was probably the only one there that was working full-time hours on top of my full-time drama course. So I was doing 80-hour weeks. Um, and I think I was always so aware of what I was going to have to do in order to to succeed. Maybe it would have been better if we had been more prepped on that, because I do think there was a huge dropout rate from the industry for a lot of people that did think it was going to be quite easy because they got into drama school quite easily. It wasn't that difficult for them to be there because they were just having their fees paid for them. And maybe they got out and it was a bit of a shock for them that actually people are going to tell them no, it's they're going to have to work really hard. Um, it's just not something that I ever thought too much about because I always knew it was going to be difficult.
Mm.
So I don't feel like I was prepared for it by the school, but I was always prepared for it. But I actually haven't spoken to anyone that wasn't fully prepared for it about whether they felt they could have been more prepared for it. Um, and I do think we did have, towards the end of our final year, we did have lots of talks. We had people come into the school and did say, like, this is what they do. I guess it was a bit like this that we're doing now. Um, and they kind of said other jobs that they do have. So there was a mild bit of preparation, but it's how seriously you take that. And if nothing's ever come hard for you before, then maybe you just don't prepare that much for it. I don't know, because it's just completely different perspective than I've had, and I've not had that conversation before.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And as you say, if you've come from a background of having to deal with your own money, then you're probably pretty well prepared. You know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, but my school did give us a big talk about being self-employed and HMRC and tax returns. Like, I do think we were prepared quite well for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a couple more comments from Keith in the chat. Keith says he's going to try and be more shampoo from now on, which is, I think, good advice for everyone. And then he's saying, I think you might enjoy Jade Frank's show called Eat the Rich.
Oh, Eat the Rich, yes, I have heard of that.
Good recommendation. Thanks, Keith. And
Mhm.
I guess you probably you've got your job title on there, so I guess you work in industry, is that right? Great. It's good to have you here. Thanks for coming along. Okay, so if there aren't any other last minute questions, I think we've covered everything. As I'll just say thank you so much to Lauren for coming along and being so generous with her time and her thoughts, even if she can't remember most of what's happened to her. But she's got good friends who can prompt her to remember, which is very useful. Um, yeah, so got some lovely comments in the chat. If you've got any feedback about this session, then please fill out the form which Hannah has posted, and do come along to our other events. As Hannah said, we've got a whole debate about AI and filmmaking coming up on Wednesday, which also has free wine attached to it. I'll just point that out and leave that there. And that's on campus on Wednesday. So thanks very much, and we shall see everyone anon very soon in the next event. Please stick around.
Thank you so much for having me.
And the next event's in 10 minutes, same link, just stay on the link, and it's the creative industries and the making of trans invisibility.